Welcome back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jai Picks. The other half of the show, the parlay. Joining me in to break down some UFC 297. Let's get into it. It's pay-per-view fight week. We're in Toronto, Canada, headlined by Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis in the main event, co-main event for the bantamweight, women's bantamweight title. Raquel Pennington, Mayra Bueno, Silva. Fans are eager to see that one. What do you think of the card overall?
Oh man, I love a fight where we get a good build-up. We got some beef between Strickland and du Plessis. The card overall, I see a lot of people talking shit on it, and I get it 100%. The name value is not there, but I think people will be pleasantly surprised with how some of these fights turn out. I think we're going to have some wars on our hands, some people shocking and getting some upsets I can feel happening too. Overall, I'm just pumped UFC's back. Second card of the year, good spots to make money, and I'm pumped for it.
Yeah, I mean, since this card is in Canada, I mean, they wanted to load it up with Canadian fighters, which means there's probably not going to be a ton of name value, and they don't really have any type of pay-per-view star, really anybody that could, main event even a fight night at this point. But they got a lot of Canadians on the card and some good matchups. I mean, I love the main event. Me and you were talking about it before. This is a great matchup to break down, and a lot of beef starting to unravel. I mean, Sean Strickland saying he's going to stab him if he brings up anything about his childhood again. So we'll see if that happens. But we're going to go through, give you our breakdown for each and every fight on the card, and give you our pick for it. But if you want our bets, you can jump in the double leg premium. The link is in the description for that. Historically, we've been pretty dang good on the pay-per-view cards because, last card, UFC 296, absolutely smoked it. The one before that smoked it, and the one before that smoked it. So, I mean, we're just on the pay-per-view train, and we're looking to keep that going. You got anything before we jump into these fights and start breaking them down?
No, just you hit it on the head. Pay-per-view cards have been our cards to make money. All the way back to 290 over the summer. We were there in person. Yep. Both of us cashed out, did well on the others. And then I think both of our biggest nights of the year came at UFC 296, where we just cleaned house. It was fun to be there live as well. Looking to keep that streak going on into 2024 for sure.
And my favorite one from UFC 290 when we were there, Dricus du Plessis, money line against Robert Whitaker. That was probably my favorite bet of the year, just because nobody was on it. And he's on this card. We will talk about him later. Let's jump into it with the first fight of the night, flyweight bout. Malcolm Gordon coming in as the favorite against Jimmy Flick. Two guys, both 33 years of age, and both not the top of the division by any means, probably the bottom of the barrel. One of them Canadian, being Malcolm Gordon. Jimmy Flick, the American. Who you got in this one?
Yeah, man. This is such a tough one because there's just liabilities on both sides everywhere you look. Like, there's not much to find in either fighter that's really going to make you rush to put your money on, especially your hard-earned money. You're not going to want to part with it here. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Jimmy Flick was in the UFC. He retires. He comes back 3 years later, gets knocked out by Charles Johnson in round one, turns around, gets knocked out in round two by Alessandro Costa, by technical knockout, I should say, and just hasn't looked good since that 3-year layoff. And like I was telling you before this, man, he looks slower on the feet to me than he has. He's never been a power puncher. He's never been a good striker. He's never KO'd somebody in his whole MMA career. He's a submission guy. He is good on the ground. I'll give him that. He's got long limbs, and he's very, very experienced and dangerous when he's in a dominant position. But Malcolm Gordon, kind of the same way, only I'm going to give him the striking edge here. I think he's going to be faster. I'd say even though Flick has been finished in his last two fights, they're kind of TKOs where he got beat up first for a little bit. And Malcolm Gordon, his chin, man, he's just kind of getting put away very early by guys. Like the shot against Jake Hadley that dropped him to the body. I mean, Jake Hadley only landed 10 strikes in that fight, and it was over. Don't like to see him coming off of that. And, against like Sumaderji, gets knocked out in the first round. Sumudaerji hits hard, but I mean, he couldn't really take anything. He didn't even land a shot in that fight before he was put out. So I hate seeing those two losses there. Get submitted by Mikhaev. That's kind of, there's nothing to hang your head about there. But I think this fight is going to come down to who's a better striker on the feet, who's more durable. I would normally lean Jimmy Flick just because of Malcolm Gordon's chin, but I think Flick's striking is so lower level that Gordon's not really going to have that to worry about. Flick's a lot slower. Gordon's going to have the speed advantage. Neither guy are high volume, but at the end of the day, Malcolm Gordon has at least put 5 guys out with his fist by KO or TKO. I think it could happen again here. I just don't think Jimmy Flick's probably 100% in the game if he's retired and he's come back and he's coming off 2 finished losses.
Yeah, this is one that I wouldn't be, too high on either side because, like you said, liabilities on both sides. It's like Malcolm Gordon can't really take a punch, and if he's down on the ground, he's shown he can get submitted. Jimmy Flick, I don't even know if it's like the cardio drops off or it's just because the accumulation of damage that comes so early. But once he gets hit, it's like he can't really do much. Like he's starting to get hit. It just piles up on him, and then he ends up getting TKO'd. So I don't really like either side. I would say Malcolm Gordon probably has the more skills to win this fight, but he's minus 200. And I'm like,
yeah.
Watching his fights, it's just not even worth it at that point. So I don't think I'll probably have a bet on this one. For the pick, I'll go with Malcolm Gordon. Jimmy Flick could pull off some weird type of submission that he has done in the UFC. I mean, he flying triangled Cody Durden, who is a beast. That was back in 2020, and that was probably the highlight of his career. Maybe should have just stayed retired and ended on that one because since he's come back, it hasn't looked good. But it is a winnable matchup for him because Malcolm Gordon is not good. But, Malcolm Gordon's going to be the pick, and this is really one you shouldn't get invested on because who the hell knows? I mean, this is you get the variance with the flyweights and the heavyweights, and these are 2 liabilities. It's like something weird is probably going to happen. So if you can predict it, props to you. But I'm probably not going to take a shot. Gordon will be the pick.
I kind of like the under, honestly, in this fight. Yeah. I mean, I think both guys are very liable to get finished. And when you get that 2 guys in there like that, and we saw it with Phil Hawes and Bruno Ferreira, even though they hit harder, both guys had liabilities on each side. Someone was going to get finished regardless, and it happened pretty early. So I could see the same thing happening here.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. Because I feel like Jimmy feels like he's got to get somebody out there early. And Gordon probably going to feel confident on the feet and maybe puts him out, maybe gets submitted. So maybe the under's the play. I'll look at it, and we'll see if we get there later in the week. We'll move on. So the flyweight bout in women's division, Jasmine Jasudavicius coming in as a big favorite over Priscilla Cachoeira, the Canadian being Jasudavicius. Both ladies not quite in their prime. I mean, Jasudavicius kind of hit her prime, but she took a loss to Tracy Cortez in her last fight. And she she showed her toughness by all means. She's a tough son of a gun, but she did get pieced up in that one. Priscilla Cachoeira, the book is out on her. She can't grapple. She'll submit her on the ground, but on the feet, she's got some heavy hands. And if she's going to win this fight, it's probably by knockout. I wouldn't say she gets a decision. Don't think she gets a submission. So if you like the Cachoeira side, probably want to take the knockout prop. But Jasudavicius, like I said, tough. So this is a weird one for the betting sides because you get a wide line women's MMA. You probably don't want to touch the chalk, but you might have to in this one. What do you got?
Yeah, I think Jasmine coming off a loss, like you would think she comes into this fight knowing she needs a win in the worst way at whatever cost. And I think she should do exactly what she's good at, which is the grappling. She's always bigger than everybody she fights in this division. She's taller. She's strong. I mean, Priscilla's strong as hell too. And her takedown defense hasn't been great. And when she does get on her back, she has a tough time defending submissions. She has a tough time, working back to her feet against girls who are good with the grappling. And I think Jasmine is. Like, I do think she has some good grappling skills. The striking's a work in progress. So the one thing that would worry me is that Priscilla's just been drilling takedown defense for 6 months and comes in here and looks good in the first few rounds. and then Jasmine's forced to fight on her feet. And then from there, like, it's kind of a pick 'em, if you ask me. Jasmine's probably going to land more volume, but Priscilla's going to land the big shots. She is. She does it to everybody. So that's what would make me nervous, laying the chalk on Jasudavicius, who's coming off of a loss. Like, she's a massive favorite against the girl who, when she wins, it's usually by knockout, and a ton of power for women's MMA. Like, you just don't see it very often like you do with Cachoeira. That being said, man, I don't see her being able to stuff the takedowns. I don't think I just don't think she's on that level as far as the grappling. I do think I believe Jasmine has some like national credentials in wrestling in Canada. Like, she's been wrestling for a very long time. She has a great understanding of it. And if you put a girl in there like Cachoeira, I just don't think she's going to hold a candle to it. And like I said at the very beginning of this, I think Jasmine knows she needs a win here in the worst way. Got to do it by any means possible. I see her going to the grappling immediately.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, her striking really isn't very good. And we saw in a lot of her fights that once she starts to get hit a little bit, she'll look for the takedowns almost immediately. She did get a couple against Tracy Cortez, which is somewhat impressive. I mean, she was 2 for 10, so it wasn't like she was getting them easily. But Tracy Cortez is a good wrestler. And she got 4 against Fernandez and ended up having, 11, 12 minutes of top control in that one. And then she got the big win over Miranda Maverick as an underdog. This is a massive step down in competition for her. So I understand why the line is that way. I think she probably gets her to the ground. And I mean, if you're looking at a minus 365 favorite, you want to find a way to like bring the price down. So you could take her by decision, which I think is around minus 125. But I mean,
it's just not good enough.
Yeah, no, it's like I almost feel like she's gonna have so much top control on Cachoeira that eventually Cachoeira is just gonna get frustrated, and maybe later in the fight she can find a finish. The only problem is you look at how many finishes Jasmine has. She's got 1 submission and 2 TKOs. So, I mean, I could see a late finish, but I wouldn't be too confident in it. I'm sure the odds will be pretty juicy, and I might take a little sprinkle because Cachoeira submitted round 3 her last time out. She's been submitted 3 times. Once against Jillian Robinson first round, Valentina Shevchenko second round, and last time out against Miranda Maverick third round. So I kind of see the similar thing here with the fight against Miranda Maverick. She just can't stay off her back, eventually succumbs to the pressure, and Jasudavicius maybe finds a late finish, if not rides out a decision. So she'll be the pick for me. And you got anything else, or we can move on?
Yeah, no, last thing. I mean, if you like props and stuff, I don't know if you can find a point deduction prop, but if you remember back to Priscilla Cachoeira's fight with Jillian Robertson, she eye gouges when she gets on the ground. She grabs the fence. I mean, she's a dirty ass fighter, and she's done it over and over again. And the refs at this point are going to know that. They're going to be looking for that. And I don't think she's going to be on a short leash, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And if you can get like 20-1, 30-1 on a prop like that, that's what I would play in this type of fight. When the line's so wide, you don't want to take the favorite. You don't think the dog has a chance. Look for something fun like that in this fight.
Yeah, honestly, when I see plus money on Cachoeira, I usually take a good look at it because she does fight for your dollar, and she's got heavy hands. But I just think Jasmine's probably going to be a little too tough. I don't think she'll be able to put it away. So Jasmine's the pick. And we move on to the welterweight division. Johan Lainesse, another Canadian, taking on Sam Patterson. He's moving up to 170 after he got brutally knocked out at 155 against Yanal Ashmus in his debut. And he's looking to bounce back. And hopefully that chin holds up a little bit better up a weight class. He is a massive dude at lightweight, 6'3". So I think it's probably a good move for him to go up. Who you got in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to take the dog. I've watched all of Johan Lainesse's fights. I even bet on him against in his debut because I liked the power from what I saw in the regional scene. But he just, man, he gasses. He seems to really, really gas. We saw it against Gabe Green, after one round. Like, after that first round, he's landed some good shots. He was throwing heavy, but he slows down significantly. And, it's not like he has a good boxing style to where he's throwing a lot of volume and that's what gasses him. He gasses because he's like telegraphing everything and he's putting everything he is into single shots. And when it doesn't land, he's screwed. He's not going to go out there and take all these guys down by any means either. Like he does have takedowns in the UFC, but he lands them at such a low percentage. I don't necessarily worry about that either here against Sam Patterson. I mean, the only real thing I am worried about is that round one, like, because you said we saw Sam Patterson get absolutely flatlined by Ashmos in his last fight. And most people wouldn't like that he's moving up to a higher weight class with harder hitters after taking a brutal knockout like that. But in this one, I think it's more of where he belongs. 155 at 6'3" was probably a hell of a weight cut down there. Now, he's a skinnier guy. So, 170, he's not going to have to cut as much. If anything, he's going to be able to put on a little muscle and hold that muscle up around the fight instead of dropping it all. And he's not a power puncher. I don't see him going out there and sparking Lainesse. But what he does have is phenomenal cardio if he can just get past the first round. He's got great volume. And, his submission game is there as well. He can submit guys if he gets you down. He'll stand and trade with guys and, beat you in the boxing realm too. And against Lainesse, I just think he has him covered everywhere besides the power. And if you're going to give me a dog here, I think this could be your buy low spot of the week. A lot of people are going to be low on him. They're going to watch the highlight from the Ashmos fight, and they're going to pick Lainesse. But I think a lot of people are going to be pretty upset they made that. Once Lainesse gets to the second and third, he's huffing and puffing, and Patterson goes in there and wins the decision 29-28, or even finds a late finish himself here.
Yeah, I'm not really big on either guy. This is just, it's weird when you get a fighter going to a different weight class because you don't know how different they're going to look. And if the chin holds up, I do think Sam Patterson could have the overall skill advantage, because I do think Johan just kind of relies on that right hand to land. And after that, doesn't really have much. I mean, on the ground, it's not great. And even in the striking department, it's not like he's ripping to the body, jab, jab, 1-2. It's kind of just sit on it, look for the right hand, and try to land it. And his only win in the UFC is to Darian Weeks, who
should have lost that.
Yeah, and it was a split decision where he landed 23 significant strikes. So it's, I mean, pretty much laid out everything you need to know there. Like I said, he just hunts the right hand. He's not going to be a big volume guy. I could probably see a Sam Patterson by decision because he could just win on volume, really. I mean, he has the frame to where he could, stand and just volume him up. And, I mean, just not super impressed with Johan Lainesse. Not really sure where to put Sam Patterson at this point. I mean, it's a super disappointing debut. He was a pretty chalky favorite. Just gets knocked out right away. Could be a good buy low spot. For the pick, I'm going to go with Johan Lainesse, but bro, this is another one that's just, I'm like, it's kind of a toss up, man. It's just not really something that screams just to take one side or the other when I look at it, but Johan will be the pick for me. Women's strawweight, Jillian Robertson coming in as the favorite against Viana, and Robertson, another Canadian, and she's looked pretty decent at 115. She is coming off the loss, though, to Tabitha Ricci, and Viana coming off the loss to Yasmin Lucindo. So both fighters looking to bounce back. Who do you got in this one?
I'm going to start off by saying I'm for the pick, I'm taking Jillian Robertson, but I'm not as confident as most people in this one. I like a lot of things about Jillian Robertson. I like the experience she has. She's been in there with a lot of people in the UFC. She's beaten a lot of good fighters too, and she's lost her fair share to girls she probably should have beat. But she's fighting at a higher level right now than I think she ever has. She's kind of had a little bounce back in skill, where she would beat Agapova, beat Rodriguez, and lost to Tabitha Ricci. But Ricci's a good fighter right now, and a lot of people hold her in a pretty high standard. And Jillian wasn't embarrassed or anything in that fight. Even landed a takedown on Tabitha. Strikes, she got outstruck, but she landed 76 significant strikes on a really fast striker in Ricci. So I thought she's shown improvements there. I like where she trains too. The Goat Shed, if you watch like stuff on their Instagram, they just scream like a gym that they're just going to work harder than everybody else. Every time you look at them, they're doing something insane. Like, it seems like there's a bunch of fighters that have a lot of, I don't even know what to call it, just like grittiness about them. They're coming out of that camp that are tough as nails. And Jillian kind of falls into that category. At least that's what she's looked like lately. If it stays on the feet, though, this is a tough one for Jillian, in my opinion, just because Viana is so damn aggressive and she's pretty heavy-handed, like sneakily. Like when she knocked out Frey, I didn't see that one coming at all. It was early in the first round. She drops her, head bounces off the canvas, and that's all she wrote. So I do worry about the striking a little bit in this matchup. On the ground, Jillian's obviously going to be the better grappler. She's going to have the better jiu-jitsu. But Viana's not a slouch by any means. Like she's not going to be out of the fight if she ends up on her back. I don't think she'll be able to submit Jillian off of her back. But it's not going to be just Jillian doing whatever she wants down there, getting into dominant position and just putting her out. So I don't know. There's some aspects of this fight that make me think it could be close in moments. And I do think Polyana Viana could have the bigger moments in this fight. But as a whole, from what I saw out of Jillian against Ricci, even in the loss, compared to how Viana fights, I do think Jillian will steal rounds here, especially if she can just get one takedown in each round. I do think she'll look better. I'm going to take her for the pick. Probably not betting on her in this fight. I'll probably sit back and enjoy. But, I do think she probably should beat Viana here.
Yeah, I think Jillian's a solid pick, but I don't really like the price. Women's chalk. We talk about it every week. It's like something always seems to go wrong. And I think about what could go wrong in this fight. I could think an armbar from guard from Polyana Viana. She's got a couple of armbar submissions in the UFC. And I look at Jillian Robertson's Tapology. The only time she's been submitted was an armbar by Bueno Silva back in 2018. Now you think, Bueno Silva now contending for the title at 135. This is a 115. So a little bit different there. But then you look at some grappling matches. Lost by armbar. Lost by guillotine choke. Lost by knee bar. So a lot of things are on the table when it comes to what she could lose by as far as submissions go. But we know she does have some very good submissions herself. A lot of those come from her getting fighters to the ground and just forcing them to give up their back, and she gets the rear naked choke. That's really her go-to, or she can get her armbar for herself. Like we saw against Pierre Rodriguez. We were there in attendance. We both had Jillian Robertson by submission. She gets on top. She gets into mount, lands some elbows, forces her to make a mistake, and gets the armbar and the tap. I could see that happening as well. I think if Jillian can get on top, get into a dominant position, whether it's half guard or full mount, then I think it's wraps. But if she just sits in guard and lets Polyana Viana use her active guard, I mean, she's training how to shoot to box. We know the guard that those fighters have, like they're active, super active off their back.
Yep.
Then it would, your cheeks start to pucker. Like, I don't want this to happen if you're betting minus 250. So honestly, don't mind the under here, minus 150, under 2.5 rounds, because Polyana Viana, not really a fighter that goes to the scorecards very often. Same with Jillian Robertson. I mean, she usually looks for the finish. And a lot of times when she loses, it's by decision and she's just getting out volumed. So in this one, Polyana Viana is not a really high volume striker. And I think where Jillian struggles is when girls can get in and out of the pocket, use their volume, stay at range. And Viana, aggressive striker. She's going to throw heat. She's going to throw hard kicks. And she's going to look for something to finish the fight. Another trait of the shoot to box fighters. So I like the under more than anything in this fight. And if I had a gun to my head, I'd take Jillian Robertson, and maybe you look for a submission prop there, because Viana just did get submitted by Yasmin Lucindo, who is young in her career. And I don't think she has like the jiu-jitsu that Jillian Robertson does. Yeah. Granted, she does have a lot better stand-up, but on the ground, I think Jillian's a little bit better. So I'll take Jillian for the pick. She's got the experience, and I think she should be able to get this one done. Bantamweight bout, Sari City coming in as the favorite as the Canadian, and Ramon Taveras coming in as the underdog, the American. Both guys making their debut in the UFC, and this is the rematch from Dana White Contender Series. Sari City got the first round knockout against Ramon Taveras, and it was a questionable stoppage, so then they give Taveras another shot on the Contender Series. He gets a round 1 knockout and a contract, and they make the rematch, which I think is perfect, because that was 100% an early stoppage. And we get the rematch here, and If we look at the lines, it was a little bit closer, if I remember correctly. Let me just check. Actually, no, I'm
I think
wrong.
Sidey was minus 170-ish, wasn't he?
He was, I mean, it says on Tapology he was minus 210. And a lot of times those contender series lines like change a lot before, like right before the fight. So I don't know if that's accurate, but I mean, somewhat around the same line. Who you got in this one in the rematch?
Yeah, dude. Oh, man, it's tough. I really want to take Ramon Taveras here because when you watch him, like, yeah, he got that was an early stoppage on the contender series. I think he could have toughed it out a little bit. You know, he might have been finished right away with ground and pound, but you got to at least give him a chance. That was so bad. I feel like we were robbed of that, and that's probably half the reason we're getting this fight here. But he comes back onto the contender series and looks phenomenal. Gets the early knockout over Cortavius Romeus. And when you watch Taveras in previous fights, besides that knockout, like that's what he does. That's just what he does in every single fight almost. He's got insane hands. He's fast. He throws some big shots. You know, he's got submissions on his record too. It shows he's well rounded. But it's almost, for me at least, it's like looking in a mirror across it at Sidey here. Sidey is another well rounded guy who's got big power, obviously. I mean, he put him down. The shot he put him down with on the contender series was, you know, right hand straight down the pipe, beautifully thrown, beautifully placed, and, you know, just shown. And when you watch his other fights too, that he's a very, very solid striker as well. And it just makes me think, like, I'm not going to call it a fluke, but this maybe should be more of a coin flip. I think everywhere this fight goes, these guys both possess good skills. Um, you know, it's kind of yet to be seen who at this level has the sharper skills in each level. I think Sidey might have the more power and accuracy, but Ramon is just this savage when he gets going. When he starts fighting downhill, he's hard to stop, and when he lands the big shots, he'll rip the body, get your hands to drop, and he'll knock you out upstairs. I don't know. Something's telling me Ramon's going to come out hot. He's got something to prove. Sidey might be a little more comfortable here. He knows he can put him down. And those are always the upsets that seem to happen, at least when I'm betting on the favorite side. So I'm going to take a shot on the dog here with Ramon Taveras.
Excuse my sneeze there. About to send my fucking Zinachino across there. I was like, what the hell just flew out of my mouth? But this one, I get weird vibes from this one as well. Like, Ramon has the boxing advantage, and he throws heavy. Like, that knockout against Romeus in his second contender series fight was nasty. I mean, 29 seconds, like, got him out of there real quick. And you watch a lot of his fights, he throws heavy, a lot of round one knockouts, round two knockouts. But I just look at Sidey, and I think he's the more complete fighter. If he can avoid getting knocked out, like, he should be able to win this fight. He's got a great frame, 5'11", 72-inch reach. He uses it well. I mean, he's a kickboxer. Like, that's just how he fights as a kickboxer. And I think if he can keep the range, then he should be able to run away with this one. And I mean, he showed he can knock him down. Like, Ramon Taveras has been knocked out twice. I mean, one of them was the early stoppages, but he's shown he can do damage to Ramon Taveras. I don't necessarily like the chalk, but considering he got the win in the first one, and it is around the same line, it does seem like there could be some type of value on Sari Sidey, but I'm getting weird vibes from this one. I would take Sari Sidey for the pick. We'll see if we get there from a betting standpoint. If you like a dog, I wouldn't blame you for taking Taveras because he absolutely could go in there and get a knockout. But we are talking Canadians fighting in Canada. And last time out, they went undefeated. I don't really like going up against Canadians on this card. So I'll take Sari for the pick. And got anything else on this one? Otherwise, we can move on.
It could be your fight of the night. People just won't realize it because they've never seen these two fight. But this has fight of the night written all over it. I'm pumped for this one.
Yeah, I like the matchup. And I'm glad that they get the rematch.
Yeah.
Featherweight bout, Charles Jourdain looking to defend the home turf as the favorite against Sean Woodson, who's coming in as the underdog. You see the height there. That's going to be the big story on Sean Woodson. 6'2" featherweight, 78-inch reach. He's going to have a 9-inch reach advantage, and he's the underdog. Do you think there's value there?
It's just so hard to bet against them because of those factors, right? Yeah. Like, you know, half the time in MMA, like you can look at the stats and look at the reach and height, and it won't matter because guys are good at closing the distance and getting inside. Or, you could not look at that and then they get in the fight and you realize why the hell did I not take the dude who does have a 10-inch reach advantage, who fights well from the outside and is a good boxer. It's just one of those weird fights because we've seen Jourdain in boxing fights where he just kind of gets pieced up, like against Nathaniel Wood. Like he landed some good shots, but everything coming in returns landing, at a little bit better rate. Even against Shane Burgos, like it was a close fight. I get. Well, sorry, no, not Shane Burgos. What was the other fight I was thinking? I can't even find it now. But against Sean Woodson, I feel like there's a path to victory for everybody to beat him, and it's just kick his legs because they're so long and they're so skinny. Like if you can damage up the front legs, you take away some of his best weapons, you take away some of the explosiveness he has. But guys just don't seem to stick with it after a round or so. I mean, I feel like both guys in this fight are hittable, and that scares me for taking either side. Woodson, was arguably should have lost the fight against Saldana if Saldana didn't make a massive mistake and knee him in the face when he was on the ground. And he loses that fight. Like he was getting dropped in that first round a couple of times badly to where I thought the ref might step in. And I was on Saldana as a dog there just because of the power aspect. But other than that, he's just beating guys that don't know how to deal with his range. He's beaten Dennis Bazooka, who came in on short notice for his UFC debut. I mean, Colin Anglin couldn't figure it out whatsoever in that first round, got pieced up. Yusuf Zalal, the only time he really had trouble was Julian Erosa. And, there was a little bit of a grappling disadvantage there for him, and he got subbed. Charles Jourdain does have the grappling in his back pocket. Like he's good, but that's just not really his game plan. He's not going to come out here and try to take you down. He'll basically, fight his opponent's style in all of his fights. Striking wise, man, it's so hard to pick in this fight. I want to side with Jourdain because he's going to be in front of his home crowd. For whatever reason, like everybody goes nuts for Charles Jourdain. He is a fun fighter. He's a likable personality. I feel like he's going to feed off the crowd here. And that would make me very, very nervous to take the dog here. But, dude, Woodson does hit hard just because of how long he is, and he leverages that length really well. As a dog, it's kind of hard to ignore him in this situation. Right. And I'm going to take him. I'm going to stick with him.
That's what I'm thinking, too. It's like Charles Jourdain, I feel like he could just come out here and get outboxed the entire fight. Like, if he doesn't mix up his attacks with the leg kicks, maybe even try to take him to the ground and do some work there. Like, if it's just a stand-up boxing battle, like Sean Woodson's going to win that. He's just longer. He's got great boxing to start out with. And he's able to, he rips to the body really well. He's just able to put a pace on you. And the only thing that scares me not taking taking Sean Woodson is the chin. Saw it against Saldana. He got clipped a couple times, and it was like the guy had never taken a punch in his life. So that scares me. But, he's the underdog. So as far as the value pick, like I feel like Sean Woodson is the value here. But Charles Jourdain fighting in Canada, now we're just talking narratives. Like that's the bad part about this is like if this was anywhere else in the world, I'd be on Sean Woodson all day. But it's just like the narrative of it scares you a little bit. I don't think I can let that blind my judgment and to not take Sean Woodson at plus 155 against Charles Jourdain, who got outboxed by Nathaniel Wood. I thought he won the fight against Sean Burgos because he did more damage, or Shane Burgos because he did more damage. And Burgos kind of just was on his back for most of the fight there, at least the rounds that he won, and kind of gassed out towards the end. And Jourdain put it on him. But Sean Woodson, I think he's just able to keep the range and make life hard on Charles Jourdain to land anything. One fun fact about these guys, both guys got submitted in the third round by Julian Erosa by Darce choke. So if there's one thing somebody wants to attack in here, it could be the Darce choke, and it could be late in the fight. So, and I also look at like the wins of Charles Jourdain. Ricardo Ramos, his last time out, great guillotine win in the first round I was on him there, and it worked out perfectly. But that's Ricardo Ramos, who was a 135er going up to 145.
And very erratic. Like just
Very erratic, just not nearly the type of style that Sean Woodson presents as far as the striking department goes. Kron Gracie after the layoff, who he just was looking for the submissions the entire time. He just didn't really have much to offer on the feet. And then the loss to Nathaniel Wood, where he got outboxed and out wrestled. Sean Woodson does have some nasty jiu-jitsu on the ground. I mean, he's got the length. Like the length is a problem when you get to the ground. We saw it in the Saldana fight. He had in some weird type of submissions. So if it does go to the ground and Charles Jourdain, ends up in top and he's playing with the guard of Sean Woodson, he's got to be careful. So yeah, for the pick, I'm going to go with Sean Woodson. I know it's not sexy because you want to take the Canadian favorite in Canada, but I don't think I could pay minus 185. It's like we're talking a big swing in value here. I think it's just all on the Sean Woodson side. A lot to ignore if you're on the Jourdain side. So
yeah,
be my pick.
Yeah, and if you look at Sean Woodson, the dude's only lost one time in professional MMA. Yeah. He only has 12 fights. He's got a no contest or a draw, excuse me. And the loss to Rosa, who also beat Jourdain. The one really thing that would concern me with Jourdain on the feet here is he likes to, kind of shell up and push forward with his head down and, and try to get in close. Yeah, Woodson is long, and you think that you like to get in close against him, but dude, the knees up the middle are just nasty, and he's so long.
Those knees to the body, even knees. You just lift his knee up, and it's in your head.
I mean, he can land the knees to the chin, to the body. I mean, with ease. Like he's so tall, 6'2", featherweight is insane. So that concerns me too. And from the outside, he's long enough to hit you wherever. So it just seems like there's more aspects in this fight and more things that are stacked against Jourdain than people are really actually looking into. I think people just love Charles Jourdain that much, and I get it. Like I'm a fan of him too. I just think it's a tough fight for him here, especially being the favorite like this.
I think sneaky prop to look at Sean Woodson by decision.
Yeah,
because Jourdain never been knocked out. I don't know. It's might be tough to get in Canada with the crowd there, but I think he could just outvolume him and win a decision. And yeah, I like him. Bantamweight bout: Superman Brad Katona coming in as the favorite, and going up against Garrett Armfield as the dog. Brad Katona, the two-time tough winner, can't give him one. He's got two under his belt. And he's looked pretty dang good, even though his last time out to win the second tough title, it was a very close fight, but I think he did win it just based on this guy's got great cardio, and he's not going to be fazed by anything you throw at him. And he's just a dog. I mean, he's got a motor, and I'd like it. I like him, but I do love the boxing of Garrett Armfield. I watched the tape on him. It's really crisp. I think it could present some problems for Brad. It's just a matter of if he can outlast him and take over as the fight goes on. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's a tough one for me because for Brad Katona, he's just one of those fighters that is just always going to outwork you almost. Like you might be better at him than boxing. You might be better at wrestling, but he's going to be there for every minute of the fight. Like he doesn't really get tired. He's kind of a dog in there. Like I know people knock him because he doesn't really finish anybody. He doesn't have that big power, but one thing's for sure, he can take a punch. Like he gets cracked and it just doesn't really phase him. He might stumble for a second and then he's in on a single or double leg and he gets you down. He just grinds out these wins. And that scares me for a guy like Armfield who hasn't really seen that yet. I don't think like he lost to David Onama by submission, but in the second round, but like David's kind of a round and a half type of guy who's gonna, wildly throw to try to get you out of there, who has good submissions and good, neck chokes. But, he beat Toshiomi Kazama on that card in August. And I don't know, Kazama he's a guy who came off a loss to Rinya Nakamura.
Trash.
And I wasn't really high on him. And, what's that?
He's awful. Toshio.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a layup for Garrett Armfield there. And so now you're going to go against the guy in Brad Katona, who has been around forever. Who did he win the show his first time around too?
Yeah.
He won the Ultimate Fighter twice. I don't know if he's the only guy to ever do that. I'm guessing probably so.
Yep.
But you're not going to see it on his UFC record, but the guy's beaten Timur Valiev by split decision on the show. He's fought in Bryce Mitchell and submitted him in the third round. Beat Kyler Phillips on that season too, who's in the UFC. This guy has fought a lot of people better than Garrett Armfield. A lot of people who have better boxing, I think, than Garrett Armfield. The experience just goes so far. He's trained with the best in the world. He's been around the world to fight. I just see him just kind of putting this pace that's just too much for Garrett Armfield here with the grappling. And Armfield might look good in the first round, but Brad Katona, he's not a finisher, but what he is a very smart fighter, and he knows what his strengths are. He knows what he's going to have to take away from his opponent, and I think he does that early enough to where Armfield's sucking air in the last few rounds, and Katona's just grinding out the win.
I think so too. I think that's pretty much how this fight goes. I think Garrett Armfield comes out, lands some nice punches, looks good early in the fight. Brad Katona eats him on that Superman chin and just takes over as the fight goes on. Like you said, the experience is on his side. He's fought really good guys. And at the end of the day, he's still only 32. So he's got another good run for him back in the UFC. And two-time champ, bro. How you going to bet against a two-time champ? So I'll take him for the pick. And I'm not taking that as a dig, but he did great work over in Brave CF and a really good promotion. He was the champ there. So I guess three-time champ. And I like him in here. I think Garrett Armfield is a solid fighter, though. This is just a tough matchup for him to overcome. I mean, he's going to have some good knockouts in the UFC with his great hands, but it's going to be tough to put out Brad Katona, and I think Brad will be able to take over.
I got a prop I got to throw out that I haven't seen the line on. They're not out yet, but I mean, if you look at a Brad Katona round 3 sub and you're going to get good odds on it, I would jump on it just because, again, I think Garrett Armfield could get tired here. Katona submitted Bryce Mitchell in the third round. Like Bryce Mitchell, who is a grappling wizard. I know he just got knocked out by Josh Emmett, but on the ground, not many people are hanging with Bryce Mitchell, and he was able to submit him in the third. And if he can just get Garrett Armfield tired, Katona's going to sense that and he's going to keep grappling. I think you get him out of there.
Yeah, I'm looking at a book right now, round 3 sub for Katona plus 1,400.
Not bad.
It's not terrible, but maybe you can find something better on a different book. Featherweight bout, Movsar Evloev coming in at minus 200 against Arnold Allen at plus 165. In the undefeated man, Movsar Evloev couldn't finish a sandwich, bro. I mean, probably couldn't even finish a sentence at this point. 7 fights in the UFC, all by decision. And Arnold Allen coming off the loss to Max Holloway in a fight that we were at. And, I mean, he didn't look terrible in that fight. Clear loss. But, it's Max Holloway. So you can't knock him there. Before that, got a win over Calvin Kattar because Calvin blew his knee out. So that one's, it's tough to really judge how good Arnold Allen is. But at the same time, Movsar's not beaten any world beaters by any means. So it's an interesting one. This is one that I think will be kind of controversial. And I think a lot of people will see some value on Arnold Allen. What are you thinking?
I do too. I think people will as well. It's not that Movsar, I don't mind the fact that he doesn't really finish anybody because his skills everywhere are pretty polished. Like he might not have crazy power or crazy submission game, but his boxing is good and his grappling and his wrestling just dominate people to where like he's not necessarily looking for a bunch of submissions by any means. He's just kind of like he's like I don't even know if you want to call it a Merab Dvalishvili type because he's not as explosive to me, but he's just very good at controlling and managing each round. Like he's just a fight manager, dude. He'll always be in the position he wants to be in. If he feels uncomfortable on the feet, he's going for the takedown. He's putting you against the cage, and he just doesn't give his opponents much time to breathe. Diego Lopez had him in some nasty submission attempts to the point I thought he was going to pull off the massive upset on short notice. Maybe if he had a full camp, maybe he's able to, dial those in a little tighter and get it. But Evloev seems like, although he doesn't finish many people, he doesn't seem like he's a guy you're going to be able to finish either. Even though Arnold Allen has all the power, is a great striker, throws really hard. He's beaten some guys in the UFC that are pretty damn notable names. Calvin Kattar, Dan Hooker, Sadiq Youssef are his last 3 wins before losing to Max Holloway. I just think people are kind of overlooking him here a little bit, and they slap this price on this fight for a guy who just hasn't had the highest level of competition. And he's a wrestler. He really is a wrestler with some good boxing. Arnold Allen, over his course of the UFC career, has a 76% takedown defense. It's not like he's fought a ton of insane wrestlers by any means, but he has stuffed a lot of takedowns against guys, like Amir Khani, guys kind of at that level of grappling.
Right.
I do think he will get taken down in this fight, but I also do believe he can work back up to the feet. Like he's not bad at wrestling and grappling by any means. But while it's standing, I think he has the advantage here. I think he hits harder, obviously. His striking defense, it's very hard to hit him. Even after the Holloway fight, the guy still holds a 61% striking defense, only getting hit with 2.86 significant strikes a minute, which is pretty good for the amount of fights he has. And Movsar, will throw some decent volume, but Allen the way he cracks, I just got to give it to him on the feet here. I give Movsar the wrestling advantage. Those two styles are going to clash. We'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, I think the price is a little wrong here. I think it should be a little bit tighter.
Yeah, it just comes down to, can Arnold Allen get back to his feet? Because he's going to get taken down in this fight.
Yeah.
I mean, Evloev has a 50% takedown accuracy. I know that doesn't sound good, but if you look at, numbers across the board for people that shoot a lot of takedowns, 50% is pretty damn good. So he's going to get taken down in this fight. Can he get back to his feet is the question. It's not really, can he play around with his guard? Because I don't think he possesses anywhere near the guard of Diego Lopez to where he could, score based on submission attempts. So I think he's got to get back to his feet, and eventually he's going to have to start stuffing takedowns. So that's really what it comes down to. We're going to find out if he can on Saturday. But again, you can't overlook the price that they're putting him at. Plus 165 is solid. I mean, it's really tempting. I don't think I would bet Evloev at minus 200 just based on the fact that it's probably going to go to decision and it might get judged based on the damage. And I do give Allen the slight edge in the stand-up. At the end of the day, you're looking for dogs that could possibly cash. I mean, Arnold Allen is probably one that you're looking at and eyeing up. I'll take him for the pick. I mean, if you were going to put a gun to my head, I'd probably take Evloev just because he's minus 200. But I'll take a dog for the pick at Arnold Allen. I don't know if I'll get there from a betting perspective. I won't get there from a betting perspective on Evloev, I could tell you that. But I might be eyeing up some Arnold Allen. And that over is just so chalky. It's like I'm almost tempted to take the under. Something crazy might happen. But Evloev's the decision machine. I mean, this guy should be remember the decision. For real. I mean, like at least Bilal's got some TKOs. Like Evloev ain't got none. So yeah, I'll take Arnold Allen for the pick. We'll see if we get there later in the week. Middleweight bout, Marc-Andre Barriault coming in as the underdog, the only Canadian underdog on the card, going up against Chris Curtis as the favorite. It's an interesting matchup. I like the matchup. Who do you like to win?
I like the matchup too. Chris Curtis coming into the UFC was on a nice little, off the Contender Series, got a nice little 3-fight win streak. Beat Brendan Allen, stopped him in the second round. Phil Haas knocked him out, which, is kind of expected these days. And then beat Rodolfo Vieira because he stuffed like 22 takedowns in that fight, which was just insane. Both guys were kind of gassed towards the end of that fight, though. Loses to Jack Hermanson, beats Buckley, loses to Gastelum in a fight where I thought he should have beat Gastelum, and no contest against Imavov. But the Gastelum fight's what sticks out in my mind. It's almost like Chris Curtis looked just a step slow in that fight. He got tired really fast in that fight. I know there was like a headbutt and stuff. You can't blame it all on that. Like he lost the first round, in my opinion, in that fight. He is getting to be, near, what is he, almost 37, going to be 37 this summer. So, he's getting up there a little bit, and he's a striker who relies on his boxing and speed and stuff. So when that's starting to get a little, slower, it just makes you wonder how many guys he's going to beat at this level in the UFC. Now, for Marc-Andre Barriault, 2-fight win streaks, not fighting the greatest opponents by any means. I mean, Eric Anders, pretty good fighter though, and he's able to get that thing done just based off of, they call him the power bar because of the endurance and the durability. Based off that alone, he was able to just make it till the end and throw more shots and get the knockdown and just looked good. That's the one thing that concerns me here if you're taking Chris Curtis, is if this fight goes past 1.5 and Marc-Andre is just not quite as tired as you, and he starts pouring it on and puts you up against the cage and starts ripping shots, it just gets really, really sketchy in my opinion. Chris Curtis, better boxer for sure, but Chris Curtis has to come forward in this fight if he wants to win. He's not going to beat Marc-Andre off the back foot because Barriault's just going to be in his face throwing shots. He might not put him out, knock him out, but he will be there, and that's kind of his style. March forward, put guys on their back foot, and start teeing off and just outlast you. Chris Curtis is fighting off the back foot in this fight. I think it's bad news for him. For that reason, man, I'm going to take the underdog here in Canada, the younger guy, the guy with better cardio at this point in his career, the guy with the reach advantage and the height. I'm going to take all of it. Give me Marc-Andre.
Yeah, this is a good test for Marc-Andre Barriault, because if you look at Chris Curtis and who he's lost to, like in the last 10 years, 5 years, no, damn near 10 years. I mean, 8 years. We'll just say that. Who he's lost to: PFL champ Magomed Karamov twice, Ray Cooper, and then in the UFC, Jack Hermanson, Kelvin Gastelum. I mean, those are like top 15 guys. So this is a real test for Marc-Andre. Like, is he going to be able to crack the rankings? And in this one, like, just based on the price alone, I think I got to go underdog, because Chris Curtis is a guy you probably want to look at spots where he's the underdog and he's got a chance to knock his opponent out, or he could win a decision, stuffing takedowns and landing more volume. But if you just look at the stats, like, he gets hit way too much. I mean, just not to the fact where he's getting hit clean and it looks terrible, but his opponents just rack up the significant strikes so quickly because he feels like he's not taking damage, but to the judges, it doesn't look good. It's just that happened against Jack Hermanson, happened against Kelvin Gastelum. It was happening against Nasruddin Imavov. So in this one, I think if Marc-Andre can rack up the volume early, avoid getting knocked out, I think he wins a decision, because he's going to land more. He's going to land. I think he could land some nice leg kicks. I mean, you're really going up against Chris Curtis as a boxer. Like, he's not going to throw a lot of kicks. He's really kind of a Sean Strickland style. Sean Strickland's teammate, and first time in his UFC career, he's fighting on the same card as Sean Strickland. So we'll see if that helps him or hurts him. But in this one, I think the younger fighter, being Marc-Andre, fighting in Canada, the narrative once again, you're getting an underdog price on him that's pretty solid. I think it's the play. I really do. So I'll be taking Marc-Andre for the pick, and just hoping he doesn't get knocked out. Honestly, like the over 2.5 too, because Barriault's only been knocked out once in his career. And then Chris Curtis, I don't think he's getting knocked out by Marc-Andre Barriault, really. I mean, he's got good cardio. He's never really gets hit too clean. If you just look at his head, it's freaking massive. I mean, his arms are pretty big too, and he's able to absorb a lot of damage. So I think this fight probably goes to a decision. I think Marc-Andre is just going to do more work throughout the fight to get his hand raised.
Yeah, I agree. And man, Chris Curtis, I've just noticed that he's always absorbing one punch away from just changing the whole entire fight, to where I don't know if it just drains him or what happens, but if he ever gets touched and rocked, it's like the rest of the fight for him, he's just a different fighter. He doesn't have the output anymore. He gets a little tired in there. And man, I just keep thinking the age, sometimes he's going to be a step slower. He's not going to be able to go as long. And, Marc-Andre will. He's always there for the whole duration of the fight. And it seems like in the past, Marc Andre struggled with the grapplers, the guys that can take him down and control him a little bit and keep him off the feet. Chris Curtis isn't going to come in here looking to wrestle. So, it's more of a coin flip in this one, in my opinion. And if you're going to give me a plus 160 underdog when it should be a coin flip, I'm going to take him every time.
I like it. Welterweight bout, Mike Malott coming in as the big favorite and is starting to be the face of Canada for the UFC.
Yeah.
Going up against Neil Magny, who is the underdog and is coming off the brutality that he took from Ian Gary, which was just a disgusting performance, really. I mean, he got whooped by Ian Gary, but still managed to see the scorecards. And that's got to be factored into the line here because Mike Malott is trying to crack into the rankings here, and Neil Magny's been that gatekeeper. We'll see if he can pull it off. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting because, if there's one thing that Mike Malott is lacking, it's definitely high level experience in the UFC, which Neil Magny has a wealth of. Like, this dude has been around forever. He's fought everybody. He's got a style that can just be really annoying. He is 6'3". He's a taller guy. He's long, 80-inch reach. It's going to be a 7-inch reach advantage. And he's just for the most part, a pretty solid, smart fighter. He knows how to win fights. He knows how to kill the time, put you against the cage and just, make you work until you're tired or, until he can just kind of steal rounds like that. I don't think Neil Magny's necessarily finishing many people at this stage in his career. He's always in close fights, it seems like, besides Gary. But, he's another one. The age is just kind of starting to show. Mike Malott is on the opposite trajectory where he's just kind of starting to, show what he's all about. I do think on the feet, Mike Malott is good enough to where, he'll win the big exchanges here against Magny. If Magny wants to try to grapple and get in the clinch, I think Malott will be able to take him down. And we've seen Magny submitted a lot of times in the UFC. Gilbert Burns recently, Shavkat Rakhmonov, guys like that are submitting him. Rafael dos Anjos back in the day. And Mike Malott is a wizard on the ground, it seems like. He submits, Johan Lainesse, Adam Fugit, which aren't two great names, but he is the wrestling coach at Team Alpha Male, I believe, if he still is. And, he's got a wealth of experience in that game. So if he can get the fight there, this is him all day long. I think he can even finish Neil Magny on the ground. If it stays on the feet, I still think he has the advantage. I think he's going to win this fight for sure. But, Neil Magny's a guy that just will pop out these wins every now and then. You're like, what the hell? What the hell was that all about? He just has that vet experience where if he gets it figured out in the cage and he knows what your weaknesses are, he kind of exploits those a little bit. But Mike Malott just seems a little too good here.
This feels so trappy to me. It really does. But you think back to the Sean Woodson fight, it's like I didn't touch on it when I broke it down, but 7-inch reach advantage. I mean, he's got one of those frames for welterweight that's just huge. Yeah. And he's going up against Ian Gary, who's also 6'3" and has a great frame, and he just wasn't able to use that whatsoever.
Yeah.
The way that Neil Magny wins fights recently, at least, is like he's just going to hold on to you. He's going to hold on to you, maybe try to get you to the ground, and just kind of wear you down. I mean, he's always got good cardio. If he's not getting, his legs kicked out by Ian Gary, he's always got good cardio, and he can just take you to a decision that's close, and the judges may give it to him. Mike Malott, like you said, lacking that high level of experience. Like, he just hasn't fought anybody good. He really hasn't. And this is a test, and at minus 400, it's like, God, this seems like too much. It just seems like way too much. He's dangerous, and he could finish Neil Magny. All of his wins come by finish, but Neil Magny is going to be tough to knock out. And I don't know if Mike Malott's going to get on top of him really easily and be able to submit him. So I'm really scared for Mike Malott at minus 400, just based on the fact that Neil Magny can make fights boring and make it his type of fight. A gun to my head, I would take Mike Malott. I don't know that I would bet it, though, because it just seems like you're not getting much value. Like, minus 400, you're going to throw it in a parlay? Like, all right. I mean, I guess you could, if that's your anchor, sure. But, like, I don't know. It just seems a little bit trappy. And maybe even, you take a plus 170 over 2.5 because Neil Magny could just hold the guy for the whole fight. Yeah. And we get that boring fight that Neil Magny loves. But Mike Malott in Canada, he's the Canadian superstar at this point. Can they allow him to lose? I don't know. And I don't know. I'm just a little scared for Mike Malott. I do like him though. I love his skill set. I just haven't seen it at a higher level so that I can really get behind it. So yeah, we'll see. But I mean, for the pick, I'll take Mike Malott. I just don't love the price.
And for Malott too, like the one thing I would worry about is he comes in here with the expectations of putting Magny out in the first or early second, like he's done all of his fights so far. And he's in Canada. There's going to be adrenaline pumping, the crowd, everything. Like what happens when all that doesn't happen? When you can't find that early finish, and you have a little bit of an adrenaline dump, and you're a little tired now. Like that's exactly when Neil Magny starts taking over fights, at least in his past. Like if guys get tired against Magny, you're kind of screwed because he'll go all day long. He'll just kind of beat you up with elbows in the clinch. He'll put you against the cage, make you work. And like if you're tired, Neil Magny's not the guy you want in there with. So that's one thing you got to watch out for too.
We will move on to the women's bantamweight championship, the co-main event. Bueno Silva coming in as the favorite against Raquel Pennington as the dog. Like I said in the intro, fans are excited for this one. Who you got winning?
I think Bueno Silva wins, but I also think people are writing off Raquel Pennington here a little too much. Like she's on a 5-fight win streak, and I've seen nothing but Bueno Silva is gonna submit her or gonna beat her. I mean, Pennington just beat Ketlin Viana, who is a girl who was just beat Holly Holm like not that long ago, and is fighting at a high level or was fighting at a high level. Her other wins, Aspen Ladd, Macy Chasson, not bad. Other than that, she hasn't beat any great fighters lately besides Irene Aldana in 2019. But her losses are against girls that are, top of the division for a while. Holly Holmes, the Amanda Nunez, Jermaine Durandamy when she was active. So, she's fought a high level of competition, especially in the last 6-7 years. Bueno Silva has submitted some decent fighters. She submitted Stephanie Edgar, which, that's kind of when Bueno Silva, that fight and the Lena Landsberg win, and, beats Holly Holm that was overturned due to some bullshit substance stuff. But, people are kind of high on her. Out of those 3 fights, people are really, really high on her against Pennington when in reality, Pennington has a lot of experience over high-level girls. And, not a similar game. Like Pennington can use the grappling. She's good there. She has, she'll average some submissions per fight. But, on the feet, I think Raquel Pennington is going to be a little more technical here. She's going to have the better boxing at least. And if she can keep it on the feet and really make Bueno Silva work, I think it starts to get to be a really, really interesting fight here. I'm not ready to write off Raquel Pennington just quite yet. I know a lot of people are. I'm not going to bet this fight because I hate these situations in women's MMA like this. But I'm going to take Silva for the pick. But I think this is a lot closer fight than people think.
Yeah, this is a tricky one too. It's like I hate betting on women's bantamweight for one, because the level of competition is always so low that like you're literally getting Bueno Silva a title shot based on one win. Like that,
Yeah.
That's just one win over Holly Holm and it's title shot, because before that it's Lena Landsberg, who's trash, Stephanie Egger, who's trash, and Wu Yanan, who's trash. So it's like, okay, you get one win and then it's a title shot. And usually you'd get the title shot over Amanda Nunes and you'd know Amanda Nunes is going to beat her, but you're getting it over, or giving it against Raquel Pennington, who is kind of the same way. It's like, okay, she's got one good win against Ketlin Vieira, who's solid. And then it's Aspen Ladd and it's Macy Chiasson and Penny Kianzad.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are decisions that are close. And it's like, okay, who really knows? Like when we get in there, who really knows? But I just think this one, it's either Bueno Silva early or it's Raquel Pennington late. Like Bueno Silva is a finisher. She was a shoot to box fighter, and now she trains at American Top Team. She's got nasty submissions. And I just don't think Raquel Pennington's going to be that easy to submit. I don't think she's going to be that easy to put away. She's only been subbed once in her career, and a career that's 17 fights in the UFC. So, I mean, she's been fighting at a high level for a very long time. And if you look at Bueno Silva, before she moved up to 135, she was taking a loss to Marina Moroz. She took a draw to Montana De La Rosa and a loss to Manon Fiorot. So, I mean, it's not like she's been this killer like that. That's been this destined champion for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I know we're not really seeing that by the line. I mean, it's minus 160. We're not seeing anything crazy here. Raquel Pennington is just kind of a dog. I mean, she's not really going to throw anything crazy at you. She's just going to stay in your face and make it a dog fight. And I think if the fight goes later, it goes in more into her favor, and maybe she wins a 5-round decision. But gun to my head, I would take Bueno Silva. I do love her stand-up. It's a little bit more impactful on the feet, and I think she's got more skills across the board. But Raquel Pennington's got the experience, and I think she could turn this fight around later and run away with it. Gun to my head, I'd take Bueno Silva, though, just for the upside. And, I mean, she's the favorite because – and I'm not saying anything crazy because she's the favorite. But, yeah, I'd take Bueno for the pick. And that brings us to the middleweight championship of the world. It is time for the main event. Shauna Strickland coming in as the favorite over Dricus du Plessis, the challenger, slight underdog. Who you got in this one?
It's tough, dude. This is one of the toughest fights to predict, to pick, to break down. Like on both sides, you find things you like. Both sides, there's some things you don't. And both guys are just, it's just a style when they clash. It's just, you have no idea which guy is going to be able to hang with the others. You get Dricus, who has a lot of power, pound for pound. Like this dude hits so freaking hard. And we've seen it time and time again. We saw him just put out Robert Whitaker, before that fight was somebody they were calling maybe the actual, besides Izzy, probably the best 185er on the planet. And Dricus went out, had a decent first round, second round, gets the finish. Nobody saw it coming but you. Like, you were one of the only people that was on Dricus in that fight. But besides that win, you beat Derek Brunson. He beats Darren Till in that third round, Brad Taveras, Trevin Giles, and Marcus Perez. It's just he hasn't fought those high-level guys outside of basically his last two fights in which he looked really, really good. But, there's times when he looks a little tired in there. He looks a little sloppy when he does get tired. I know he got his nose fixed and everything, but I don't think you can blame the cardio all on that. I do think it's probably getting better with more experience. I do think it'll keep getting better. But that's what I fear with Sean Strickland. I fear if DDP can't go out there and finish this guy, or he hits him with everything he's got and he tries to finish him in the first few rounds and he doesn't, I think he's in serious trouble here. I think Sean Strickland is a guy that you don't want to be in there with after 3 rounds, especially this is a 5-round fight. This is going to be Dricus' first 5-round fight in the UFC. And Sean has a wealth of that kind of experience. He's been fighting in the UFC forever. He's fought everybody, it seems like. Basically his only bad fight in the last 5 years is the Alex Pereira fight where he got KO'd in the first round. Outside of that, he split decision with Jared Cannonier where he outlanded him. He even got a takedown. I thought Strickland won that fight, but it was very close. It was not a knock on him because we just saw what Jared Cannonier can do at his age still. Beats Nasruddin Imavov pretty handily. It was, again, close fight in the beginning. Sean just takes over as it goes on. Beats Avus Magomedov, who, again, gassed trying to finish Sean Strickland. Just doesn't happen often. And then he just put the beating on him. And then, didn't really gas, but Israel Adesanya just couldn't find the chin. Didn't look like himself. Looked a little hesitant. Almost got finished in the first round. And then Sean just put a beating on him. So it's interesting, dude. I'm going to pick Sean Strickland here. I'm going to stick with it. I've been kind of wanting to go back and forth all week, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to stick with the guy who has the cardio. Like, cardio seems to be king. You hear that a lot. People saying cardio's king. Not that Dricus is going to completely gas or anything here, but Dricus will always be in the fight. He's always going to fight. He's got the dog in him. You know what I mean? He's not going to, even if he is tired, he's not going to quit in any fight. But Sean will be there, probably not breathing that heavy in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And, it could be bad news for Dricus if it gets there, but it could be bad news for Sean in the first few rounds with the power. So that's what makes it very, very hard. It's a clash of not necessarily styles, but just the clash of two stand-up fighters who do it in a very, very different way. And I'm going to take the defensive wizard and the cardio in Sean Strickland.
Man, you're really going against Dricus again.
I don't want to. Like, betting wise, like, dude, I'm bad with main events. That's why, like, you see my premium bets every week. I hardly ever have a bet on the main event.
Yeah.
Ever, because I'm bad with them. Main events, MMA is unpredictable in itself, but main events in the UFC can be wildly unpredictable. You just never know. Like Sean Strickland beating Israel Adesanya, wildly unpredictable.
Yeah,
it's just a weird game, especially the main events. So I stick away from them.
That's the tough thing with this one, is because both guys are coming off fights where nobody really gave them a chance, and naturally they're going to be overvalued in their next fight, but they're both coming off it. So I'm like, I try to go back and look at both of those fights and like, was it a fluke? I would say Sean Strickland's fight against Izzy looks more like Israel Adesanya was off. Like I do think Dricus du Plessis could go back in there, fight Robert Whittaker, and win again. If you put Sean Strickland against Israel Adesanya, if you put him against him in the mindset that he had against Alex Pereira, like the second time in the UFC, like I think Izzy beats him. But I just watched that fight, and Izzy was so lazy, so lackadaisical, and some of that surely has to do with him getting stunned in the first round. But he just never let anything go. And that's just not what Dricus is going to do. Like, Dricus is not going to sit on the back foot and let you pressure him. He's going to take the fight to you. And I look at a lot of the fights that Sean Strickland has lost. The two fights that he's lost in a very long time are against fighters that are pressure fighters. Like Jair Cannonier is a pressure fighter. He's rarely going to take a step back during the fight. He's not going to look to counter you, really. He's going to look to keep the pressure. Sure, he's going to counter off of his pressure, but he's going to look to be first. Alex Pereira, kind of the same way. He has great movement, but at the end of the day, he's looking to land first and put some damage on you. Like, a lot of his wins, Israel Adesanya counterpuncher. Abus Magomedov just fell off a cliff. Like, Abus lost to fucking Caio Barriault easily after that. Like, Caio Barriault wasn't even a ranked fighter. Abus wasn't even a ranked fighter. So, I mean, you get the title shot over beating an unranked guy. Like, we all know why he got the title shot, but just a spade. Like, you beat a guy that wasn't even ranked and gets a title shot. Got it done for sure. Then Jasudavicius fights off the back foot the entire fight. Just totally different fighters than Dricus. Dricus, undefeated in the UFC, he's only won one fight by decision in his entire career. So what does that tell you? He's aggressive. And I think he goes in there and puts out Sean Strickland in the first 3 rounds. After that, then it gets dicey, because you laid it out perfectly. It's like, you don't want to go later with Sean Strickland. He's not going to be phased later in the rounds. Like, he's going to be the same guy he was when he started. Maybe Dricus could land enough damage early in those rounds where he's not the same, but I don't think so. I think Sean's probably going to be the same later in the fight. So I would assume Dricus has got to get him out of there in the first 3. And the win over Whittaker is obviously great. And then people try to downplay the win over Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson was fighting for a title shot against Cannonier right before he fought Dricus du Plessis. Like, let's just not throw that win out the window. Like, if Derek Brunson beats Cannonier, he's fighting for the title. And then he loses that fight, and then he fights Dricus, and now all of a sudden he's bad. Like, I just don't see it. Like, Dricus is a great fighter. I mean, he's physical. He has a great frame. He's very skilled. He's unorthodox, so it doesn't look like he's skilled, but he's tough to deal with in there. I think Sean Strickland, his style is very clean. He wants to keep things clean. I don't think that's going to be great for him going up against Dricus. How you beat Dricus, to me, seems like you got to be a counterpuncher, you got to wait for your opportunity, and you're going to have to catch him. And I don't think Sean Strickland's a great counterpuncher. Like, a lot of his Philly show is all defensive. Like, if you throw at him, he's going to be defensive. He's not looking to, slip counter. He's going to catch everything up here, catch it all, shoulder roll it, and then reset and look for his offense. I just don't think that's how you beat Dricus. So I think Dricus, as the underdog, is perfect for me because you don't have to lay chalk on him. So it's not like you're having to put up a ton of money. He's already the underdog. And I think it's the play. I think you're getting a new champion here. And I think they want that as Adesanya Duplessis fight because that was one that was hyped up before. So I'm on Dracus this week, man. He's brought me here, and he's gonna get the title and pull it off for me once again. You got anything else?
Yeah, I'm just this fight. There's a lot to look forward to in this fight. It's going to be. I think we get one of the better lead ups. Anticipation and one of the better fights of the next few months. This card isn't the best, but this fight, man, the fight in the crowd at UFC 296. The words they've exchanged, everything, you put all that into it, and we have a great main event here. I will say one thing outside of fighting that would concern me with Sean Strickland is he's gone through a lot emotionally in the last month. I don't know. It just doesn't, it seems like I don't know if it's that he can't handle being in this position as champion, but he's just kind of said some stuff online, the whole podcast where he just breaks down. He's constantly talking about the trauma he lives with every day. Like, it seems like being a champion is just he's almost just oversharing, and you can tell mentally he's just kind of a mess. And I don't know how good that is heading into a big fight like this against DDP, who's probably mentally solid as they come.
Yeah, some people might brush that off, but it is a little weird because it seems like a different Sean Strickland because in the past, we've seen anytime he faces off with anyone, he just kind of makes a joke about it. He's not really he just kind of smiles and grins. But you saw that face off he had with Dricus. Granted, it was
emotional
after the comments, but never seen him like that ever. And Dricus, I've watched a lot of his interviews leading up to this. The guy seems focused. He seems ready. He seems confident. And some of the reason why I took Dricus over Whitaker is because there's just a different type of hunger you have when you've never had a championship belt. Robert Whitaker's been there before. Okay, he's got to go back and do it again. He's already done it. Now Dricus, he's got that hunger. He's got that hunger to go in there and get the belt for the first time. And that's a goal that he's wanted his entire life. Sean Strickland has said many times, he doesn't even care about the belt. He just goes in there to fight. He doesn't even care if he wins. He just likes to go in there and fight. Am I selling you on Dricus Duplessis or what?
I said, honestly, at the end of the day, regardless of my pick, I think betting wise, it has to be dog or pass here. And I'm not going to be surprised if you see Dricus flip to the slight favorite towards fight time. But again, Sean, he just seems very, very emotional, which is way out of character for him leading into this fight. Usually Sean's the one giving out insults and hurting people's feelings, but now he's kind of the one getting his feelings hurt, threatening to, do some stuff that'll land you in jail if Dricus brings up something about his past. That's so unlike Sean to be that, emotionally invested in what people are saying about him. And that's kind of why I circle back to my statement of, he's not really dealing mentally with being the champion well. As people are getting to him, obviously, he's breaking down in front of everybody on podcasts, which, the reasons he's breaking down are 1000% legit and understandable. It's kind of out of, it's not the same Sean Strickland as we used to see. It's not so much the carefree Sean Strickland anymore. It's like he's feeling a little pressure in this situation. And, we've seen guys come in and fight emotional all the time, and it doesn't end well for them. So that is one reason that I would, a reason I would kind of scratch my head and think maybe DDP should be the favorite here or has a good chance to put this fight away. If I'm DDP, I'm bringing up his past at the press conference. It's always fair game when Sean's on the mic. He'll say whatever. So, if you can't take it, don't dish it.
Yeah. love both guys, but I got Du Plessis for my pick,
Yeah.
and I got to ride with him. But those are the picks for UFC 297. We're looking forward to another pay-per-view. Started off good for 2024. First pay-per-view of the year, 12 fights. In Canada, it is, I mean, if you're in Canada, you're probably in some misery because it's like, what, -8 there? So I don't know why they would do a Canada card in January, but
Yeah.
it's there. And if you're there, you're probably bundled up. And yeah, and any last thoughts before we head out of here?
Pay-per-views, we've been killing them, like we said at the beginning of the show. If you want to hop on the premium, it's not just you and I giving out plays anymore. We got 2 other guys that have their own channels. Last week, Ding went up 5.5 units. Dodger went up 7 units. I went up over 2 units. I mean, I feel like we've added a lot of value. And, we got a good group of guys in there, all sharing information, all sharing their opinions, everybody working, trying to find some valuable bets, and it's paying off. So about to be a big week.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of perspectives, which I know a lot of people like because you can't always go with one person's. I mean, that's part of why we do the show. Each give our input, but in the premium, you're getting 2 extra as well. I mean, Ding and Dodger, two guys that have been really good, and we've been covering for the past year and a half or half of the year of 2023. They've been really solid with their bets. So we trust them. That's why we brought them in, and they're bringing you some winners. So hop in the Double Leg Premium. Link is in the description. Stay up to date with everything at the Double Leg on Instagram. We'll be posting some good stuff there, as well as the free pick on Saturday. Stay tuned for the Best Bets show later in the week. We'll give you our best betting favorite, best betting underdog, and best prop. So stay tuned to that on the YouTube channel. Hit the subscription button and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when it's posted. Hit the like button for us. We appreciate it. At HI Picks on the medias for me. Stay up to date with everything, and we'll give out some free picks on the daily fantasy. Where can they find you?
All social media is at the Parlay MMA.
Appreciate you all. Till next time, we'll see you in the Best Bet show. The Double Leg signing out.